Have you ever actually stopped, maybe looked at a physical piece of paper currency, or just stared at the numbers sitting there on your banking app and wondered, why does any of this actually mean anything? We kind of tend to think of money as just this static physical object we hold in our hands or just a number on a screen. But honestly, that is a total illusion. Welcome to this explainer, the future of money, Bitcoin. Today, we're going to completely shift how you see financial systems. Our goal here is to build a really clear foundational mental model of what money actually is, why it's constantly evolving, and exactly where Bitcoin fits into that whole ongoing story. By the end of our time together, you're going to be able to see the hidden architecture of wealth and exchange, and we're going to do it without any of the usual hype or crypto jargon. To get us there, we've got a pretty clear roadmap. First, we'll explore why money keeps changing. Then, we'll break down the three fundamental jobs of money, uncover that hidden layer of trust, look at Bitcoin as a new design, examine the core trade-off between convenience and control, and finally, we'll wrap up by building your system's thinker mindset. So let's dive right in. Why money keeps changing, from city roads to digital networks. Money absolutely does not stay the same, mostly because the problems it solves don't stay the same. Think about a rapidly growing city, right? What happens to its infrastructure as the population just booms? What worked perfectly fine for a sleepy little small town starts to completely buckle and strain under the weight of more people, more movement, more complexity. Well, money evolves for the exact same reason. As human trade expands and gets increasingly global, trust gets a lot harder to manage. Speed becomes absolutely critical, and we literally require better, more efficient ways to move value around. The crucial takeaway here is this: money is not just an object. It is a dynamic, living system for trust, exchange, and storage of value. So, if money is a system, what exactly are its day-to-day operations? That brings us to the three jobs of money: exchange, measure, store. Every single successful form of money in human history has had to perform three distinct jobs. Step one is exchange. Imagine you have a really specific skill today, but you need an entirely different resource tomorrow. Human needs just don't line up neatly. Money acts as the bridge for those mismatched timings so we don't have to rely on the absolute headache of bartering. Step two is measure. Think of it like measuring cups for cooking. Without a standard unit of account, trying to compare the value of totally disparate goods is just pure chaos. Money provides that universal metric, turning fuzzy abstract value into something strictly comparable, which lets complex markets actually organize efficiently. And step three is store. Like a water tank holding water for a drought, this is how money moves value into the future. It preserves your purchasing power for when you actually need it. You're basically locking in the economic energy you spent today so you can deploy it tomorrow. Think about this quote for a second. Money is a container for postponed choice. I love that phrasing. When you save, you aren't just hoarding numbers, you are literally bottling up your ability to make economic choices later on down the road. But here's where the friction happens. If that container has a leak, say through rapid inflation or systemic instability, saving becomes incredibly frustrating. Nobody wants to hold on to a leaky bucket, right? A good money system has to do all three of those jobs really well, or people will inevitably start hunting for alternatives. But here's the catch. None of those three jobs can even happen without a very firm foundation. Which leads us to the hidden layer of trust, the invisible foundation. This is the part people so often overlook. Money only works because people believe that other people are going to accept it later. Fundamentally, money is just trust made usable. Think about carnival tokens. Inside the gates of that specific ecosystem, they have immense value, right? You can buy food, play games, because everyone agrees to the rules. But the second you step outside into the real world, they're entirely meaningless pieces of metal. The value isn't in the physical object or the digital points. It's entirely in the shared expectation. Trust can come from a government, a central bank, a long history of use, or from transparent, verifiable rules. But the minute that trust weakens, the whole system wobbles. Which brings us to the core of this explainer. Bitcoin, a new design, shifting the trust structure. If money naturally evolves when old designs start failing to match the complexity of the modern world, what exact problem is Bitcoin actually trying to solve? A lot of people just assume Bitcoin is, just another digital money, kind of like a standard banking app. But that's way too shallow. Bitcoin is a rule-based network for transferring value. Traditional digital money places all its trust in central institutions, banks, corporate gatekeepers, to manage the ledger. Bitcoin completely flips that structure. It changes the default trust model from central institutions to a verifiable public protocol.
It is essentially attempting to do for money what the internet did for information, allowing direct, peer-to-peer transfers without needing some centralized gatekeeper to authorize every single move.
So let's put it to the test. Let's look at how this new design actually performs those three jobs of money we discussed earlier. For exchange, can value move from A to B? Yes, absolutely. Bitcoin does this through a global permissionless network. For store value, can it preserve purchasing power? Well, because of its mathematically visible, strictly rule-based scarcity and totally predictable supply, this is actually one of Bitcoin's strongest claims. But when it comes to the measure function, can it serve as a reliable pricing reference? The objective answer right now is sometimes. It's still highly volatile in a lot of contexts. And you know what? That is perfectly okay. A brand new money technology doesn't have to be flawlessly perfect at every single job on day one for it to matter. It often starts by being really exceptional at just one role, like storing value without a central authority, and then it evolves from there. But to be fair, this new design introduces a really fascinating tension. Let's look at convenience versus control, the core trade-off. Every single money system in human history makes trade-offs. With a traditional banking app, you get incredible convenience. If you forget your password, no big deal, you call customer service, and they fix it. The institution handles all the heavy lifting and the security. But with Bitcoin, you are handed ultimate control and independence because the network mathematically enforces the rules, not a CEO. However, to get that self-sovereign control, you do have to give up some of that easy convenience. There's no 1-800 number to call if you lose your keys. Neither approach is universally better. They're just designed for entirely different priorities. And this leads to a massive, kind of hidden breakthrough in how we define ownership itself. In traditional digital finance, having money really just means you hold a claim, an IOU that's written in someone else's ledger. Bitcoin ties ownership directly to the control of cryptographic keys. It literally shifts wealth from being a promise written in an institution's private database to a bearer possession that you can independently prove belongs to you. It's verified by the cold, hard math of the network, not just manually recorded by a bank. That doesn't necessarily make it simpler, but it definitely makes it fundamentally different. So now that we've mapped all of this out, let's bring it all together. The systems thinker mindset, seeing the architecture. You are no longer looking at money as some mysterious static object. You can now see the underlying architecture. From now on, whenever you encounter a new financial technology, bypass all the marketing hype and ask yourself these 4 systems thinker questions. What underlying problem is this actually solving? Which of the 3 jobs, exchange, measure, store, is it doing well or poorly? Where exactly does the trust live in this specific system? And finally, what trade-off is being made between convenience and control? By asking these, you are evaluating the actual mechanics, not just the sales pitch. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Bitcoin isn't the end of money's story. It's a new branch that proves radically different design is actually possible. It forces us to look in the mirror and ask, what do we really want from our money moving forward? Do we prioritize pure convenience? Do we want absolute stability? Are we looking for uncompromising independence? Or are we searching for some nuanced balance of all 3? That is the real fork in the road for the future of our financial choices. Keep asking these questions, and I promise you, you will never look at a dollar bill or a digital coin the same way again.